Hello and welcome to Matt Hopper's Retro Gaming channel. So I found this in a shop recently and I had to pick it up despite its hefty price tag of $9.99. It's the ultimate guide to fantasy gaming. Yeah, it starts off with the history of Final Fantasy, which you can't really argue that it's a big player in the old fantasy gaming stakes. It started off with the old 8-bit the 8-bit NES RPGs, which I didn't really play. I've never played any Final Fantasy games, to be honest, but in terms of fantasy RPGs on computers, I think that's the era which really captures my imagination the most, because obviously I was young then, and well, youngish, and they had more of a kind of a charm, really. The basic graphics, the pixel graphics, and it was all hand drawn, and you had to use your imagination more. The worlds were pretty sparse, but you were pretty much free to roam around, and you could go in these little houses and explore them and things sometimes. And it's just a little fantasy medieval world which we were free to explore. The graphics became more advanced with the Super NES era. Ironically, that's when I started losing interest, really. The more advanced the graphics got, the less I was interested. And then with the PlayStation era, we had Final Fantasy VII, which really left me cold. I didn't even bother trying to play it. It seemed like a kind of an interactive movie. A lot of the soul had gone. The PlayStation era was the time when I kind of stopped playing video games so much, and I became a retro gamer. I think the 3D was really primitive and it didn't really work, and it kind of lost the spirit of video gaming for me. Lost its charm. All the different fantasy RPGs there. Final Fantasy trading card game, which looks silly. And here we come to the meat and potatoes, the granddaddy of them all. Dungeons and Dragons by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Pretty cool, yeah. What can you say, really? It's the one that started it all, really. Developed in the mid-70s from... they were both tabletop wargamers, and they developed this rule set and gradually expanded it into... added role-playing elements, which... the rest is, as they say, is history. I bought this one in about 1980, I think, 81 or something, in a local game shop called Sportscraft, which is no longer with us. It was an amazing place back in the day, just piled high with really cool models and Star Wars figures and stuff. Yeah, I actually bought it because one of my friends at school had these really cool lead fantasy miniatures, little skeletons and goblins and fighters and stuff. I really wanted some, but back then you couldn't really find stuff like that anywhere, so I bought this thinking it'd be full of little cool fantasy miniatures, but yeah, there was just a couple of books and some dice, really. And I was pretty young and I couldn't really get my head around the whole role-playing idea, so the box sat on my shelf for a while. All the different supplements and expansions, the cartoon series, which I was into back in the day, although it was a little disappointing. It was a bit kiddie and silly, but you took what you could get back then. The history of The Legend of Zelda. I haven't played many of these games, but I got a Nintendo Game Boy in when it came out, I think in 1990 or something. It just came with Super Mario Land and Tetris. And I got the Link's Awakening Zelda game for it, which is that one there, slightly later from a second-hand shop, Poole's Corner. Yeah, it kind of blew me away really. Again, you had this little fantasy world to explore on this little handheld console. It was just amazing. With all these little puzzles to solve. Yeah, I didn't really play many of the others. I got a Nintendo 64 in 1996, I think, the summer. I've got a really expensive Japanese version. I paid about 700 quid for it. And Mario 64 blew me away, but yeah, this took a while to come out, so I'd sold my console before it came out because I got bored with it. The games weren't coming out for it, so yeah, I played it later, Ocarina of Time on the N64 on an emulator on my PC, probably at late 90s. It's a really cool game. I'll finish it one day. All the different Zelda games. Breath of Fire looks cool on the Switch, but I haven't really got time or can't afford it either. Keyforge, fantasy board game, looks alright, haven't heard of it. More of a card game. Warhammer, another iconic IP in the world of fantasy gaming. Pushed heavily by White Dwarf magazine, obviously in Games Workshop, which a company that's kind of hated nowadays. The White Dwarf magazine there used to be really cool and independent, and they'd review all the latest fantasy games and books and things, and it gradually became more corporate and just a mouthpiece for Games Workshop and their Citadel miniatures. But yeah, I was a fan of Warhammer back in the day. Great bit of escapism. I love the miniatures the most, I think. I used to collect them and paint them. I got quite good actually. I was probably up to about the standard you see here, fairly professional standard. I just love creating little dioramas and fantasy worlds and things. It was all about escapism for me. A lot of the techniques I used for painting, I learned them painting these miniatures, and then I used them again later when I did my art education, and I used it in painting real pictures. These supplements are really collectible now. I found a couple in charity shops a while ago, and I made a few hundred quid on eBay selling them. I love those miniatures. I'd paint them and collect them again if I had time or money, but yeah, life takes over. Descent, that looks pretty good, a bit like Hero Quest. Fantasy board game. Magic the Gathering, kind of a card-based game. It's quite cool. I've never played it myself. I'm not really into card games, but I like the illustrations on the cards. But it's owned by Wizards of the Coast, who took over the Dungeons and Dragons license. I presume this is World of Warcraft. Massively multiplayer online RPG. Didn't really play this either. I played the original Warcraft real-time strategy game on the PC. I wasn't really impressed. This game took over people's lives though. It was just really immersive. But in my opinion, they should have done an article on Ultima Online, which is a game I did play, which preceded this, late 90s I think. I got really into that. That was like the first big online role-playing game. Top-down 2D kind of game. Yeah, they've really gone to town with World of Warcraft. Wow. Lots of text. It's a shame really, because it didn't really hold any nostalgia for me. Dice Forge. Looks like a nice little game. Never played it. Lost Valley of the Dinosaurs. Now that looks cool. I love those charming little old-fashioned dinosaur figures, yeah. That's something I'd like to pick up actually on eBay. Got little plastic volcanoes with lava spewing out. Yeah, that's cool. I'd buy that for $1. Dungeon Master, 16-bit role-playing game. Got my Atari ST in about 1987, I think, when I moved into 16-bit gaming. Yeah, I got this back in the day, but I wasn't really impressed, to be honest. It's kind of one of those restricted RPGs where you're just in these claustrophobic dungeons. I only really liked ones with big landscapes that you could explore. I didn't really like those dungeon crawlers. Small World, nice fantasy board game. I haven't heard of it really, but looks cool. Fighting Fantasy. Now that's something that does hold a hell of a lot of nostalgia for me. Fighting Fantasy game books, they were choose your own adventure kind of things with really cool pen and ink illustrations and their fantasy themes. Some of them had sci-fi as well, but yeah, at the time I was really into Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and so obviously I got into these were like an interactive version. Fantastic. Super nostalgic. Planescape, computer RPG, which I've never played, so not really interested. Mage Knight, looks fairly good. Tile-based fantasy board game. Hearthstone, yeah, looks alright. Computer RPG, Hero Quest, that's another big nostalgic game for me. I think I got that in the 80s. It's a Games Workshop, kind of a board game version of Dungeons and Dragons, more simplified, but I really like the little figures and the furniture for the rooms and things. Really good fun. Played that lots and lots back in the day. We used to get together and just have crazy fantasy games together. Yeah, they were more innocent days really. Blood Bowl, another Games Workshop IP. It's kind of a fantasy football kind of game, like a proper fantasy football with skeletons and orcs and elves and things. Pretty good. Yeah, I picked up some a collection of Blood Bowl lead miniatures actually a couple of years back and made a fortune on eBay selling them. Gwent, not heard of that. A retrospective of computer-based Lord of the Rings games. The Hobbit kind of started it all on the ZX Spectrum. I didn't play it much. I found it a little bit tedious, but it really captured the spirit of the book. Lord of the Rings. I really like those 8-bit graphics, just really basic, but they were so exciting back in the day because you were like playing Lord of the Rings, and the graphics were shit, but you just didn't care. You just like you were there. The graphics got more betterer in the 16-bit era, and again that's when I kind of lost interest. Lots of Lord of the Rings games. Dark Souls, the board game. That was pretty cool. I like the figures, but yeah, I never really heard of it. Skyrim, another huge role-playing game on computers. It just died out on the PC, I think. I never really played it because at this time I'd kind of left video games really, apart from the old retro ones. Yeah, people got really into this. It's like a big open world fantasy RPG. Looks really cool. Yeah, I'd kind of like to play it on the PlayStation VR, but just time really. Lords of Waterdeep. Pretty cool looking board game. Not really heard of that, but looks good. The History of Ease. I used to call it Wise, but apparently it's pronounced Ease. That's good. That was possibly the first console RPG I played. The first games console I bought was the Sega Master System in 1987, I think, or 88, I can't remember. And I got this with it, and yeah, it was I finished it, I think. Yeah, it's a charming little quirky game, pretty good. All the different versions of it through the years. The World of Ease. Talisman. Some more. A massive wave of nostalgia washes over me. Yeah, really cool. This looks like a later version of it with plastic miniatures. I got the mid-80s version with they just had cards for the figures. Yeah, pretty cool. It's really it's a basic game, but it's kind of immersive at the same time. You had these nice illustrations on the board of like fields and little villages and forests and things, and you just went around it, collected items, and had to get to the middle to kill the bad guy or whatever, the end of level boss. Yeah, really good. Spent a lot of time playing that. I've still got it upstairs. And that's it. So there you go, my review of the magazine. Hope you enjoyed it.